All right, we're live. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Nick from Talking Interference Sports. I got an awesome episode for you guys today. Today, I'm joined by former Seattle Seahawk wide receiver and local radio ESPN sports analysis, Michael Bumpus. Let's bring him on. Here he is. How's it going? I really appreciate you doing this with me, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for asking.
Going? Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, cool. Yep. Cool. So so how was your day? How was it?
All good, man. I did 7-10 this morning. I did the 7 to 10 hours and then went to work at Elite Training Academy, which is a facility that I own with my wife. Dropped the kids off at the parents, went and had dinner, and now I'm here, man, ready to go.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you're here. I have been looking forward to this since I reached out to you, and you said it was all right. So let's go ahead and just roll with the punches here. Obviously the elephant in the room is COVID-19. How have you been dealing with COVID-19? I know you're working at the radio station, and I know you're doing the training center. I just want to hear how that's been affecting you day to day.
Man, it was weird at first, right? Because no one really knows what to expect out of this thing. It's kind of like you just take the news feeds and you're like, okay, am I going to run with this? Am I not going to run with it? But business-wise, it shut my business down for like 3 to 4 months. So that was rough. But as far as everyday life, it's just more time at home with the family, with the kids, trying not to go out too much. Still living my life somewhat. I still golf. I got to golf, man. I got to get my 18 holes in every now and then. But it's been okay, as far as the radio stuff, everything's at home now, so I'm not going into the studio. So I'm here in my garage, my man cave, just trying to do my thing. But just adjusting like everyone else. Masks are required now, so wearing a mask everywhere you go, and just trying to make the best out of a crazy situation. But I can't complain. I'm healthy. The family's healthy. Most people I know are healthy. And we get to do things like this. I feel like people have to communicate this way now, right? So we might as well get used to it.
Right. Yeah. I was curious because occasionally I'll pop in on YouTube and I'll look at the 710 ESPN YouTube channel, and it'll show live feed of what's going on in the studio. And I don't ever see anybody in there but Danny or but Gallant.
Yeah.
So I was curious on how that was working.
Well, Danny's in New York, so he's not able to go in studio. So 710 is trying to have at least one person in studio now. I think this is the first week, or this week and last week were the first weeks where they really tried to get people in. For that reason, people click in and they want to see what it's like in the studio, and that's a big feature, a feature that I love, honestly, because people get to really see our reactions and stuff. So they try to get one host in. I'm not a official host yet. I kind of fill in and contribute when I can. So they got Paul Gallant in there, and Paul's doing a great job, man.
Yeah, he is. So I want to discuss with you a little bit about your career, playing football, and then ask you a little bit about the transition from football into coaching and getting into your business and getting into sports analysis. And then I just wanted to ask you a couple things about the NFL and Seattle sports. So that's kind of be like how we're going to go about doing this.
Yeah.
So you didn't initially get into playing football when you were younger. And I read, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you played soccer in Europe.
Yeah, man. My mom would not let me play football until I was in 9th grade. Now, she told me because I was too skinny, I realized that we just didn't have insurance. So she was like, if you get hurt, I don't know if I can handle this. So I focused on basketball and soccer. And soccer was my first love. I mean, that was the first organized sport I ever played. So I started playing soccer. And then when I got into high school right before high school, it got really serious around like 8th grade, 9th grade. And I played on a team that traveled to Europe, and we played like 6 different clubs out there. Went to England, the London area. So a bunch of little suburbs out there, and then downtown London. We played like 5 or 6 teams out there. Got a nice little experience. Got an offer to actually play professionally out there at a smaller club when I was 14 years old. Couldn't do it. I'm like, I'm not leaving my mom in Cali. Like, I'm an only child. That's my mom. I'm not leaving her. So I ended up not doing that, man. And then I came back. It was the summer before my 9th grade year. So I knew that I didn't take this deal. So I'm just going to start focusing on football. Started playing football in 9th grade. And the rest is history, man. Had a good 4 years in high school. Played for Washington State. Was fortunate enough to get an invite to the Seahawks camp. Ended up making the team. Played in a couple of games, and that's where it really all started.
Yeah, I want to bring it back to what initially decided, or what made you decide that you wanted to do football instead of the basketball? I mean, you were just a crazy athlete. I mean, from what I understand, you didn't really play football a whole lot until later on.
Yeah, man. Honestly, it was because of the love that football got, from the ladies, from peers, from, society in general. And I grew up a big 49ers fan. So it's kind of weird that I played for the Hawks and now I kind of work for the Hawks now because everyone just hates the 49ers, right?
Right.
But I used to watch football all the time on TV. When I was young, there was this thing, HBO, like NFL films. I used to stay up late just watching NFL films all night, and I just wanted to do it. I knew I couldn't play because my mom didn't let me. So when I got the opportunity, when I got into high school, I played that first week on the freshman squad and then went to the varsity game on Friday, and the atmosphere was just nuts, man. I'm like, okay. I want to be a part of this. And the way that we viewed high school football players they were gods to us. I remember Jason Mitz and Lundy, like a bunch of names that I just grew up idolizing. I'm like, I want to be like those guys. And I just saw the love that football got. And it allows you to be just a raw athlete. I think other sports, you got to be really skilled at something, right? Soccer, like what do? Are you a defender, a midfielder, or a forward? With basketball, you got to have handles, good feel, nice shot. With football, you can just be a raw athlete and go out there and get it and then be successful early. So I think that's what kind of helped me because I'm like, look, I've never really played this sport, in an organized situation. And I played my first year and had success. I'm like, all right, well, let me try this thing out and see what happens. And I'm glad I made that decision.
I like that. That's cool. So after playing with the Cougs, you were picked up by the Seahawks and an undrafted free agent in 2008. That was the year that the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl. What was it like for you to be a part of that team? And what was, outside of catching a touchdown from Hasselbeck, what do you think your most standout moment was?
Man, my most standout moment, other than the touchdown, I only played in like 8 or 9 games. I'm like a glorified, I guess, situation when it comes there. But I would say, honestly, my first game in the NFL was against the 49ers, a team I grew up, loving. So I get out on the field, and there was a returner. His name is Rossum. What's his last name? He played in Atlanta, took a lot of kickoffs to the house. And we're going out for warm-ups. I'm with the early outs. I'm a punt return guy, so we get out there a bit early. And I see Rossum, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, man, it's an honor just to be out here with you. I appreciate you. And then he goes, oh, Bumpus, congratulations on getting pulled up. Man, he knew who I was. He knew my situation. And that was just awesome to me. I'm like, if a guy like him, a veteran who's been in the league maybe 10 years at the time, who doesn't have to acknowledge me or what I've done, did his homework and knew who I was. So that was awesome to me. Just being able, my first game in Seattle against a team that I grew up just loving. It was surreal to me, man.
Yeah, I was about to say that sounds super surreal. I don't know how I would handle that. That's pretty cool. So after the football career, you opened up the Elite Training Academy in Monroe. First of all, what made you want to stay in the Northwest growing up in California? And what brought you to this business opportunity?
Well, after the Hawks, when I got cut from the Hawks, the BC Lions offered me a deal. So that's right up in Canada, Vancouver. It's about 115 miles from here or whatnot. So I was forced to stay in the Northwest. And honestly, I met my wife in college, and she's from out here. So, I mean, you young guys, you're gonna learn real quick. You're gonna do what your wife wants you to do as far as location. And she had family out here, and I just didn't want to uproot her. I was an only child. I'm from California. I've been gone for years already. It was easier for me to kind of conform to her lifestyle than her to come to mine. So after I was done playing in the CFL, man, I come back down to Washington. We stayed in Redmond actually for the my first child. When my second child was on his way, she goes, you know what? I want more room, want more bang for our buck. So we went out to the country where she's from. So start off in Monroe, Washington. That's where I am now. And I did a bunch of different things for work, right? And after football, I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? You know, I went to school for human development, so really kind of understanding how people think and react to stuff. But I just had to find a job, man. I found any job. I ended up working for Pepsi. I was like a merchandiser and a salesman. I'm stocking sodas and I'm selling soda. I don't even like soda, you know, but I'm stocking it and I'm selling it. And I just needed to pay the bills. So I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to do right now. And then I got into coaching, and then things just started slowly evolving. And once I got a few years under my belt in coaching, I decided, I go, look, this is what I love. I love football. I like influencing young men. I like helping them in their journey. So why not just go all in on this training thing? And the wife gave me her blessing. She goes, all right, let's do it. And we've been in business for 7 years now. And lucky man, I'm very blessed. Had a lot of opportunities in my life. Could have gone any direction, but, you know, ended up doing the ETA way, Elite Training Academy in Monroe, Washington. And we're going strong.
I like it. So after that, I don't know timeline wise, but you somehow fell into getting into sportscasting. You said that you had gone to college for human development, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Where did the sportscasting come in? And did you know that was something that you wanted to be a part of?
Nah, man, it was random as hell. It was random. I got a call from, you know what happened is I coached at Redmond High School for 3 years. Then I took a year off. Then I coached at Snohomish High School. And then while I was at Snohomish, the head coach job at Monroe opened up. So I'm like, okay, that's where my wife went to school. I'm just going to see if I get that job. So I ended up getting that job. And when I got that job, it was a big deal, right? Former Seahawk gets the job at Monroe High School. And I started getting phone calls for media requests. Seattle Times hit me up. They go, hey, we'd like to talk to you. And then all of a sudden, Aaron Levine, Q13. If you're not familiar with Aaron Levine, Q13, he covers the Hawks. One of the nicest dudes I've ever met in my life. He calls me up. He goes, hey, Bump, we're covering the Apple Cup. Would you mind coming in after the game, just giving a few thoughts? So I'm like, all right, why not? I go in, give a couple of thoughts, post-game stuff. And he tells me, he goes, hey, man, I think you can do this. I'm like, what do you mean? I've never done this before. He goes, no, I'm feeling you. I like your style, like the way you talk. Like, I think you can do this. I'm like, all right. So a year goes by, I hear nothing from him. And I just continue doing my business. I'm like, it's all good. He calls me up again for the Apple Cup. So I'm like, all right, I'll go in. Yeah, 2 L's in a row. Wazoo. Well, it's twice in a row to these guys. So I go in again, and he's like, you know what, Bump? A job just opened up for the Hawks. They're looking for another radio voice. I'm going to put your name in the hat. So he talks to Brian O'Connell, who's the communications guy at the Seahawks. I end up going in, had an interview with Brian O'Connell. They put me on. I believe my first season was 2017, like towards the end of the season. And I did a good enough job where they brought me back the next year. And then from there, just opportunities just started happening for me. And I never say no to an opportunity. I'm like, look, I've been blessed to get opportunities. A lot of guys don't get opportunities. So whenever there's a chance for me to get my voice out there or to talk to people and inspire, man, that's what I'm here to do. So after that, man, ended up being a contributor with 710. Now I'm working on my 4th year with the Hawks now. So I'm just very blessed, very lucky, and just took advantage of right time, right place, man.
I'm a huge fan of your input, and I'm glad that you finally found a spot with 710 in there too. And I hope someday you get a hosting spot or show of your own. I really like your input.
I appreciate that, man. I hope so too. Hey, talk to somebody, say something, give me a job, man.
I absolutely loved your 100 yards with Michael Bumpus videos on YouTube. How did you come up with the concept, and do you anticipate any more coming out due to like with the whole COVID stuff?
Yeah. How'd that come about? So the guy under Brian O'Connell, who's the president of communications for the Hawks, is NASA Chobe. A guy I met, he's the main producer for the Seahawks. When you see videos, You hear pre and post game. He's the guy behind all that. And he approached me. He goes, look, what's your availability like? And honestly, me being a business owner allowed me to do that kind of stuff because I could leave work at 11 o'clock and then, spend a couple hours, then go back. And I told him, look, I'm available. Like, what do you want to do? And that was his concept. He goes, you know what? I see you walking 100 yards, just shooting the shit with guys and just talking life and football. Would you be interested? I go, yeah, most definitely. So he goes, look, we're going to try you out for a couple of weeks and we'll see what happens. So I believe my first one was with Cody Barton. They started me off with a rookie. They're like, all right, let's see how he does. No, actually, Cody might have been my second one. The first one was Brown.
Brown.
Jerron Brown. It was Jerron Brown was my first one. And kind of got my feet wet. And then he goes, you know what? He obviously has to take it upstairs to kind of see what his bosses think. And they liked it. So we just kept it rolling. And for that to continue, it's going to look a little different, especially with what's going on now. I'm not an official like Seahawk employee. I'm not like an essential Seahawk employee. So obviously they're not going to get me in the building. If something were to continue, it would have to be virtual. But, this world is changing as far as that stuff. I've done so many Zoom calls and interviews via, virtual stuff that I would think that if it does continue, it would have to be that route. Plans were coming into the season were for it to continue, but we'll see, man. We got a good response, so I don't see why it would not continue.
Right. I absolutely love those videos. They're very informative and it's very interactive with the players, and I absolutely love that. And the whole concept of let's just walk 100 yards is that's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, that's NASA Chobe, man. He came up with that concept.
Okay. So he's the one that does all the producing for all the Seahawks videos on the YouTube channel too, then?
Yeah. If he doesn't do it, there's maybe one other person that does it. I mean, he comes up with the concepts, with the timing of it. He kind of sets up the interviews or whatnot. He's the unsung hero. People see me in front of the camera, but NASA Chobe is the guy who really sets it all up.
I like that. So while we're talking about other content that you are a part of, Bump City Podcast, man. It's a relatively newer thing that you've been doing.
Yeah.
And I've been checking it out, and I absolutely enjoy it. I mean, that Jen Mueller interview that you did last week, that was great. Where'd you come up with that? What was the idea behind you wanting to do your own project?
When you do radio, you do TV stuff, you have input, but there's certain things that producers want you to hit on, which I don't mind, and I love it. I love the input. But I wanted a space where I could kind of talk about what I wanted to talk about. That's pretty much what it was. And then a space where I can get reps, because especially with this COVID stuff going on, I'm like, who knows how often I'm going to be on air, how often I'm going to be in the studio with these guys. I need a space where I can just stay sharp, and get these reps. So I made the Bump City Podcast. Bump City actually comes from Petros Papadakis. He was a Fox Sports anchor when I was in college, and he called me Bump City Bumpus on air one time, and I heard it, did some research. It actually comes from a boxer from back in the day. So when I had the idea to do the Bump City Podcast, I thought, why not Bump City? It kind of stuck with me throughout my college career. So I did that. So it's really just a space for me to kind of talk about what I want to talk about. Not that 710 doesn't allow me to. They love my input, but there's things you have to do in the show. So one, I wanted to just talk about what I want to talk about, talk to who I wanted to talk about, and just stay sharp, because I didn't know what was going to happen during this pandemic. Are they going to cut me off? Am I not going to get reps? So ended up working out. I'm having a good time, and we're keeping it rolling.
And I absolutely like that concept, man. I mean, getting reps from, practice in football and turning it into sportscasting, like trying to get reps by doing your own podcast, man. That's phenomenal. Practice
makes perfect, man. You're doing your podcasting, right? The more you do it, the better you get at it.
Right. So I want to talk to you about some stuff going on in the NFL, and then we could talk just a little bit about other Seattle local sports. But really, the big question is the room is other leagues have set up strict policies on player safety. And, the NFL just recently came out with their, we're going to be testing this amount of time. We're going to be testing here or what is it? Every day. It's every day,
every
right?
day for the first 2 weeks. And then if the tests are below 5% positive, then it goes to every other day.
Okay. So basically all these other leagues are taking really strict policies, but I feel that the NFL is still business as usual. And it's kind of strange to me. What do you think the likelihood of the NFL season 2020 actually completing?
Completing, that's key right there, is completing. If you would have asked me, will it start? I go, yeah, for sure. They're going to give it a chance. This is a multi-billion-dollar business. Guys just aren't going to leave that money out on the table. So they're going to give it a chance. Now, it finishing depends on the positive, the positive COVID test. Right. Say a guy like Russell Wilson gets it. Say Deshaun Watson gets it. Say J.J. Watt gets these big names. If there are a lot of big names getting this thing, I think they're going to shut it down. But if there are guys like in 2008, Michael Bumpus, a guy who was undrafted free agent who makes a team, they're going to be like, you know what? We got about 100 of those waiting in the background. So we'll keep things rolling. It's all about who gets it because it's perception, right? If fans can identify with the guy who's got it, and there are multiple guys who fans identify with, now you get more pressure to shut this thing down. If the common guy gets it, the guy who plays 2 or 3 years, who, makes his money and gets out, someone that the team isn't relying on, if those guys get it, then I think the chances of it completing are super high. Right. So if you ask me right now, 2020, what are the chances that they complete it? I'm going to say at this point is 60-40 that they completed.
60-40.
You hear about the testing?
I feel like there's a possibility of us like running into, I know, and this is an over exaggeration, but have you ever seen the movie The Replacements with Keanu Reeves?
Yep.
I mean, you got guys that might be opting out just because they don't want to risk, family getting injured or getting sick. I mean, this is ideally the way that we could actually see the NFL become the replacements, right?
Yeah. And I think that's exactly why they agreed to everyday testing for the first 2 weeks. Because guys are like, look, if I can't protect myself or my family, then why even risk it? Why even put myself in this situation? And the NFL is like, look, we don't want Joe Schmo off the street playing on a Sunday night on a meaningful game. So let's give them what they want right now to make them feel at ease, to make them feel like we care about them, which the NFL does. I mean, the players are your product. But if it gets to a point where you got 5 starters on the offense or defense and no one knows who the heck they are, the NFL is going to have to make some decisions.
Right. So I got a comment in the little section over here on one of the pages. I'm going to pop it up. Let me know if you can see it.
Yep, I see it.
All right. So being an entrepreneur, what advice would you give to new business owners and people who want to break into the sports world? Jolly AF.
Jolly AF. I like that, Jolly. Well done, sir. Or ma'am, whoever it is. Well done. What advice? I would say find your lane. Like, what is your lane? Because when you talk about sports and just the whole industry, there's so many lanes you can go through, right? You can be a coach. You can be a trainer. You can be a player. You can be in the communications department. You can be in the broadcast department. So what lane do you really want to fit in? And then once you figure out that lane, take every opportunity. I mean, I used to take opportunities I didn't get paid for, that my wife would be like, are you sure you want to do this? I'm like, look, I'm investing in myself for the future. So don't get too caught up on the money, especially if you just got your foot in the door. You get your foot in the door, you do whatever you have to do as long as it doesn't compromise your integrity. Obviously, you must have integrity. You must have morals, but you take advantage of every opportunity you get. Because if you don't take advantage of that opportunity, someone else is going to take advantage of that opportunity. So sometimes you got to sacrifice. Sometimes you got to do a job you necessarily don't want to do. Sometimes you got to show up when you don't want to show up. But if you look at it as, all right, I'm investing in myself, I'm investing in what I want to do, in the long run, it's going to be worthwhile. Whether it works out or not, you're going to know, like, all right, I did everything that I could to put myself in a position to win. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but when it does, you're not going to regret it.
Awesome. I hope that helps out, Jolly.
Jolly AF. I hope it helps, baby.
Jolly AF. All right. So with no preseason games, as a guy who came into the league as an undrafted free agent,
you already know. Oh.
How big of an uphill battle is it for these new and up and coming players? And do you see more success for these guys in later seasons, or is that kind of just like, well, it sucks to suck?
If there were no preseason, I wouldn't have made the Seahawks football club. I just wouldn't have. I played against, my first game was against the Minnesota Vikings. I want to say I had 4 catches for 65, 70 yards. Next game, we go up against, maybe, I don't remember the order exactly. I think we went to San Diego, and I didn't have any catches. I'm like, okay, I go from X amount of catches to 0 catches. The third or fourth week, again, I don't remember the order exactly. Then we play the Chicago Bears. Then I had 4 or 5 catches, 70 yards. My last preseason game, I want to say I had 6 catches for about 115 yards. So I had 4 opportunities to show my position coach, my head coach, the GM, the owner, Paul Allen at the time, rest in peace, that I could play on this level. So now you're going to ask these guys who are trying to sneak through the back door like I did to impress coaches at practice, which you can do. And how do you do that? You do that with your alignment and your assignment. And when I coach and when I play, there were 3 steps: alignment, assignment, and execution. So now you can execute in practice, but it's not like executing in the game to where you're lined up across from a guy who gives 2 craps about you, who's trying to make the team, who's out there to hurt you, who's out there to make a name for himself. So it's hard to impress these coaches at a high level at practice. So with that being said, everyone's going to miss out on an opportunity to find a diamond in the rough. That's where you find a Doug Baldwin, diamond in the rough. That's where you find Richard Sherman. He was a 5th round pick, but if you're not drafted in the first 3 rounds, you don't really know if you're going to make this team or not. So it just limits.
Yeah,
you're on that. It just limits opportunities for guys, and that's why it hurts my heart for these guys, because I know that they need these games to really make an impression. I think in the long run, it's going to hurt the league for this year. And also, say you don't make the team, you still got film out there from 4 preseason games that another team could see that might pick you up. So it's all about opportunities. We just talked about opportunities, right? Taking advantage of every opportunity. These guys can't take advantage of an opportunity that's been given to thousands of guys before them. So I feel for them.
I actually didn't write this down, but it made me want to ask you about it. What was your thoughts on the XFL? I had an opportunity to go and cover it myself and like go to practices and get interviews and stuff like that. It was a really awesome experience for all of these young guys and older guys who were trying to get back into the league. And I thought it was absolutely heartbreaking that they had such a good run, and then boom, COVID happens, and now you're filing for bankruptcy.
I mean, I was so excited about the XFL. I honestly say the XFL was out in like 2009, 2010. I might have had another opportunity to get back into the league, because timing is everything. And the XFL gave guys a second or third, maybe even a 4th chance to get back into the league and live out their dreams, because sometimes it's just the situation isn't right. I'm not with the right team. I'm in the wrong scheme. This coach doesn't like me. I mean, there are a lot of things that influence someone's career. So I love the XFL. I went to 2 Dragons games. It was hyped. I mean, the football wasn't the tightest football. It wasn't super sharp, but it's not going to look like the NFL. This is JV. You go to a football game on a Wednesday in the state of Washington, you're going to watch JV football. So it is what it is, but it allows guys to develop. And the NFL does not have a developmental league. So that's why I was super excited about the XFL. Hopefully someone buys this thing. I know it's up for sale. I don't think there's any takers yet, but hopefully someone buys this thing and sees the value in it, because there was some good football being played, and there were guys who played in the XFL who are getting opportunities in NFL.
I mean, PJ Walker looked great.
Yeah.
And he got an opportunity, right? So
yeah, I think, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I thought it was absolutely heartbreaking that that, just random, act of pandemic virus that shuts a league down and gives all these guys the opportunities just disappears.
Just like that. Like no warning, nothing they did, nothing the owners did. Is Mother Nature say, we're shutting this thing down. We're shutting everything down.
I'm going to bring it right back around to the Seahawks. One of the more controversial conversations that have popped up recently. Jadeveon Clowney is unsigned as we're speaking right now.
Yeah.
And he was Seattle's best defensive lineman. And I don't think that there's any kind of a discrepancy there. And I think the next closest guy, there's a pretty big gap.
Yep.
With that being said, the Seahawks were ranked the worst on DLine. What was that for PPF?
Yep.
If Clowney doesn't come back, what do the Hawks need to look at in order to fix this DLine, in your opinion?
Ooh. If Clowney doesn't come back, you got to sign someone. Everson Griffin is still out there, right? I think that Everson Griffin for the Vikings is plan B. If you don't get plan A, you got to get plan B. And who's to say that someone else doesn't pick him up? At this point, now you're relying on veterans and rookies, right? You're relying on Darrell Taylor, the guy from Tennessee. You're going to rely on Benson Mayowa, the guy who came over from the Raiders, who had 7 or 8 sacks last year, but not in a full-time role. You got Bruce Irvin, who's back. He's listed as a linebacker, but they're going to walk him down. They're going to rush him off the edge as well. So the best way for this D-line to improve is just to depend on the youth and hope that they're doing their job. Now, these coaches are going to have to coach their butts off. I mean, you got the leading sacker on the team at 4.5 sacks last year. There's a reason why they're ranked 32 for a reason. 28 sacks, that's just not going to get it done. You're in the bottom of the league with the Miami Dolphins and teams like that. You never want to be in the same sentence as the Miami Dolphins unless we're talking about in the 70s. That's like the last time in the 80s, I guess. In the 80s, the Miami Dolphins were like relevant.
Right.
So they got to depend on that rotation. Now, they got youth, but they got some bodies there, and then you got to look at Jaron Reed. Now, he missed the first 6 weeks of the season last year because of his off-the-field issues. Yeah. And then it's kind of hard to get in the groove, man. I mean, people are like, oh, he has 10 weeks to get it done. This is football. It's very physical. It's grueling. It's tough on your body. There's chemistry. There's this, there's that. He needed more time to get into his groove. So, but you're going to depend on a guy like that. And then you're going to depend on a Mayowa, a guy who hasn't been here, but he's leading the team in sacks from last year when he steps on the field. So it's all about keeping these guys fresh and putting these youngsters in positions to succeed. You can't ask Darrell Taylor to come out and be the guy right now. LJ Collier's got to step up. He was the number 1 pick last year. He missed some games because of a high ankle sprain. He's got to develop. It's all about development at this point, and these coaches are going to have to coach the best they ever have on that defensive line.
I know he didn't get a whole lot of snaps, but when he was in there, and I know he ended up getting suspended, but when he was in there, I actually liked seeing Al Woods.
Yeah.
Why did they let him go?
He was just getting old, man. He was just older. Al Woods. I mean, when you play that 1 tech and that 3 tech, he's an interior lineman. Your job is to take on double teams, and he's done that his whole career. Now, he was effective at times, but he's just getting older. So that means his minimum goes up. So they're like, look, okay, let's get rid of this guy. Let's make space for other people. Let's make space for a Quentin Dunbar, who they picked up. Let's make space for Jadeveon Clowney. Let's make space for next year because Shaquille Griffin's going to want his money as well. So at some point, you're like, okay, what's the risk? What's the reward? This guy's getting older. It's time to take a step back and focus on these youngsters.
I haven't heard anything about Ziggy Ansah either. They're not bringing him back, right?
Nah, he's done. And that was disappointing because he had the potential to be really good, but he's fighting injuries, and you're getting older, man. Once you reach 27 in the NFL, you're an old guy. In real life, you're still a young man, but NFL years, man, you're a dog. You're a dog.
Okay, so let's pop off of the defensive line. I'm going to act like I didn't read this article that John Clayton put out earlier today, and I'm just going to ask it. What do you think the likelihood of Josh Gordon getting reinstated and sign with the Seahawks?
One, I think he's going to get reinstated. He's living under a CBA that doesn't exist anymore, right? All his troubles The reason why he's in trouble now is because of the former CBA deal. So I think he will and he should be back in this league. And I think he's going to sign with the Seahawks because he's still living in Bellevue. This guy lives in Bellevue. He hasn't left. And that tells me that there was some type of understanding between the organization and Josh Gordon. When you think about Josh Gordon, you don't hear people say, bad teammate, horrible attitude, doesn't work hard. No, he's fighting a disease. And people want to, I guess, scold him for his issues, which they should. He's gotten 7, 8, 9 chances in the league. I get it. But this is a disease. This isn't a character flaw. This isn't like he's Antonio Brown beating on his baby moms or doing some crazy stuff. Like, he has a disease that has affected his ability to be available. Do you keep taking chances on this guy? If he wasn't a baller, you don't take chances on him, right? It is what it is. He provides a service at a high level that a lot of guys can't. So you take chances on this guy. But I think he's going to be reinstated, and I think he will be with the Seahawks. And if he is with the Seahawks, could you imagine DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Josh Gordon, Greg Olsen? Come on. That's one of the deadliest receiving cores. Olsen is the tight end, but he's still a receiver. That looks great on paper.
Right. No, and man, other than the I've had a couple debates about DK Metcalf dropping the ball, trying to fight for yards.
Yeah.
And it's not really a big issue. I think his development is going to get more and more just clean, and he's just going to just power through guys, and just I think his yards after the catch is going to be crazy. DK Metcalf's ceiling is super high, and Tyler Lockett's always been really good.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler is the consistent. DK is the, let's see what happens. I didn't expect him. I had him going for 600 yards and 4 touchdowns at the beginning of the year. That was my prediction. Dude goes for over 900 and 7 or 8 touchdowns, just exceeds expectations. Yeah. And you're right. The more experience, the more reps you get, the more comfortable and the more aware you are of what you need to do. He's got to realize, okay, I'm a big man, but I don't need to fight for extra yardage when I got 2 or 3 guys on me. You pick and choose your battles. That one time you step out of bounds, the next time you run him over, because now he's expecting you to step out of bounds. Those are the things that he's going to learn as he plays more games, as he talks to veterans in the league. So I'm super excited about DK. Guys were hating on DK. He can't do this. He can't do that. And I was skeptical, but I'm like, look, let's see what happens. So anyone still doubting DK right now, I'm going to question your football knowledge.
I'm so glad they picked him up. As soon as during that draft that they announced that the Seahawks traded up, I was, they're getting DK. They're getting DK.
Yep. They needed DK. They needed DK. Great pickup.
So the NFC West can arguably be the best division in the NFC or even in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In the last 10 years, the NFC West has had 8 teams, have NFC championship appearances. Mm-hmm. 8 teams.
Crazy.
Which team out of all of these guys in the NFC West has the most pressure to perform this season? You got Kyler Murray, who's a young quarterback, and he's trying to prove his value. And you got Damian Woody over here saying he's the dark horse MVP.
Crazy.
They've made really good offseason moves. I'll give them that. But Arizona looks good. They're on the up and up. Seattle's getting ranked the worst D-line. The 49ers are trying to bounce back from a Super Bowl hangover. And, the Rams are doing Rams things. Who has the most pressure to perform in the NFC West this season?
Who has the most pressure? Now, naturally, you want to say the team who went to the Super Bowl, who won the division last year, but they got a pass this year. You mentioned it, the Super Bowl hangover. If they don't do well this year, people are going to be like, it's Super Bowl hangover. They'll be fine. They got a year. They'll figure this thing out. So that excludes them. And then you go to the Rams, right? They had their Super Bowl hangover. Let's see what they do now. They lost Todd Gurley. Sean McVay looks like he's going to have to do the best coaching job he's ever had. He came out hot early in his career because no one knows what he's doing. So, okay, guys are picking up on him. Then you got the Arizona Cardinals with Kyler Murray, who got better. Kenyon Drake is their guy now. David Johnson is gone. You bring in DeAndre Hopkins. You draft Isaiah Simmons, I believe his name is, a linebacker. So they look good. it all comes down to quarterback play. Who's the best quarterback in this division?
No doubt, hands down, Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, right? That's why I think they have the most pressure on them. Russell Wilson is 31 years old. He's got maybe 3 to 5 more years to really try to figure this thing out. Pete Carroll, 69 years old. Yeah, the window's closing. Pete Carroll, 69. He's not going to be here forever. Bobby Wagner's getting old. KJ Wright is getting old. Chris Carson's not healthy. Rashad Penny's not healthy. You're bringing in Carlos Hyde. Like, you look at this offense, and if everyone's healthy, this offense is good to go. You look at this defense, that linebacker core is solid. Secondary is okay. The D-line is suspect. But Russell Wilson has shown that over the years, he can carry a football team. He's done it with a bunch of combinations on the offensive line. He can get it done. So because the 49ers have already had their success and they can literally take a year off and no one's going to blink an eye, I think it's the Seattle Seahawks. And I'm not just saying that because I played for them, because I'm up here in the Northwest. You got to really think about this. They have the best quarterback in their division, in their conference. The only other guy I would take over Russell Wilson is Patrick Mahomes. But if we're down in the fourth quarter, I'm taking Russell Wilson still, even though Mahomes came back from like a 20-point deficit from the crazy stuff. So I'm gonna go with the Seattle Seahawks. Their window is closing, so that puts more pressure on it. Jimmy Garoppolo is still young. Deebo Samuel's gonna get healthy. He'll be back. George Kittle still has a bunch of years in him. Shanahan is a younger guy. He'll be there for a minute. So it's circumstances. I got to go with the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay, I like that, and honestly, I don't dispute it. So that's awesome. Let's move away from the NFL and let's talk a little bit about some baseball, and then I just got a couple little questions after that, and then I can let you go, and we'll be good.
Cool.
So hold on one second. The MLB is reduced to a 60-game season. If a team goes on like a 10-game plus win streak, I mean, that could significantly swing things into, a favorable perspective for that team.
Yeah.
What do you think the Mariners' chances are of this season being a positive or a negative thing for them looking at playoffs and seasons ahead?
Man, if they come out hot like last year, or were they 13-2?
Yeah.
If they can start like that, then they have a chance for this season being a positive. I think either way, this season's going to be a positive for the simple fact that expectations are already low. No one expects the Mariners to do anything. You got a bunch of young talent, but young talent is young. This isn't the NFL where a 23-year-old can come out there and just ball out all season and get it done. Baseball is such a skilled sport that these guys need plate appearances. They need this type of experience. So, but if they are to come out hot, they have a chance to make this thing a positive. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes being young, it's a gift and a curse. It's a curse because you don't know what you don't know. You ain't been around the block. It can be a gift because you don't know. So the severity of the situation doesn't really sink in until maybe after it's happened. You're like, oh, damn, we really had a chance to do some things. I think in the end, this season in general should be a positive for the Mariners because you have a guy like Kyle Lewis who's making noise. Inter-squad game yesterday hits a bomb. Evan White, the guy that they signed to a long-term deal for the cheap, signed him early, first baseman, boom, he hits a bomb. You see guys like Graveman on the mound, retired with 8 strikeouts in 4.5 innings. Are you kidding me right now, right? You have youth. You have J.P. Crawford. You have so much youth that it's all about experience. In worst case, these guys are going to get experience, right? And Service and all those guys have done a great job of downplaying expectations. They're like, look, 2021. You guys just wait for 2021. We'll see what happens. So because that's the narrative, expectations are already low for this ball club. Now they come out hot. Now you got the M's behind you, you got all the fans behind you, and anything can happen. That's why I love the 60-game season, because anything can happen. A team like the New York Yankees and the Dodgers, which I'm a fan of. I'm a Dodger, grew up in LA. Like, these guys have all this star power, but if they don't come out ready to go, they can get left behind. Whereas a regular season, man, you can come out and start slow and you'll pick things up. Your pitching will get going, your bats will get hot, and now you got a chance. Everybody has a chance right now. The thing that's going to hurt the Mariners, though, is, man, they're opening up in Houston. 1 in 18 against Houston last year. 1 in 18 against Houston last year. So we'll see what happens. Marco Gonzales is going to be on the mound. We'll see if he throws at a couple guys, see if he gives some chin music, plucks him a bit. We'll see. But I think at the end of the day, it can be nothing but a positive because expectations are low and they're super young. So we'll just see what happens.
I mean, and even think Kikuchi was looking good in the inter-squad games, and he had kind of a rough season last year, but that's to be expected with a young, new up-and-coming pitcher. So I think, and I agree with you, I think this is nothing but like a learning experience with a chance of upside because there's only 60 games.
Yep. Hey, if we don't expect much, right? What do you expect? How many games do you think they're going to win this year?
I think they're going to be under 500.
Under 500.
I think they'll probably be around 42, 43.
Yeah. So and I think that's what most people think. So if you exceed that, you're good to go. Even if you drop below that, I mean, if you win like 20 games or something like that, everyone's like, yeah, they're young. You know, we'll figure this thing out. So the positive is that they are young and there's a lot of talent. And then you lose a guy like Julio Rodriguez, who's going to use a year of development. That hurts, but the future is bright. It's all about developing these guys. With no minor league system this year, it's going to be tough to develop these guys. That's why Kelenic has to get pulled up. Pull Kelenic up. Let him go, man. I understand that there's no minor league, but this dude's a baller, man. Give him a shot. Let him go.
Games, and this guy is just crushing it. And, dude, he looks so good out there. Why not use this 60-game season? I understand why they're doing it.
Yeah,
I understand it. As a fan, I hate it. I absolutely don't want to see it.
I'm with you, brother. I'm with you.
So with that being said, what player is Michael Bumpus keeping his eye on the closest in this Mariners season?
The closest. You know what? I gotta go with Marco Gonzales. He's gonna be the ace. He's the guy. You can have all these bats behind you, but if your bullpen and your rotation is not shutting guys out or making it difficult on them, it means absolutely nothing. So I gotta lean on Marco Gonzales. I think he's a veteran. He's 28 years old. He's been there, done that. You hear the guy talk. He's calm. He's cool, collected. He's gonna say all the right things. I mean, he's exactly what you look for in a leader. And if you don't have an ace, if you don't have a couple guys who can back up that ace, then all your bats mean nothing. So I'm looking at Marco Gonzales. He doesn't even need to win this game on Friday. If he can just go out there and look good and look sharp and give this organization something to believe in, I think they have a chance just to be fun this year. But Marco Gonzales, man, the guy on the bump on Friday. Let's go.
I like it. I love his leadership. He's looking more and more mature the longer he's been here, and I'm loving Marco being here, man. I'm so glad they just re-signed him.
Heck yeah, love it.
I got another comment that I want to pop up. It's from Jolly again, Jolly AF. So do you think not having fans in the stadiums will affect performance, not only baseball, but all sports?
Jolly AF, you coming with them hitters, baby. I love it. All right, I think, you know what? I think it will in the pregame because there's something about the atmosphere of a stadium or a ballpark before the first pitch is thrown, before the kickoff. Like, it gets you going. I used to warm up in CenturyLink. It was Questfield at the time. And just the fans alone would get me going. Like, I'm locked in. I'm in my locker room. I hear the crowd. Like, it feels like a game day. So players are going to have to tap into a different part of their brain when it comes to their pregame stuff. Is it going to affect the game? It depends on the sport. When it comes to baseball, I don't think so. It's a team sport, but it's a one-on-one battle. It's the pitcher and the hitter. I don't think it affects it. You talk about the Seahawks, it's definitely going to affect it. Why? Because the Hawks have the loudest stadium in the NFL, and they draw offsides constantly. Teams are going to be able to hear Russell Wilson's checks. Maybe they get familiar with them. By the third quarter, they know what Omaha means. Big ups Peyton Manning. You know, maybe they start picking up on things. And because football is such an emotional game, right? It's super emotional. In baseball, you can hit a home run and you're not allowed to flip the bat or to swag it out or anything. Like, it's crazy to me. In football, you make a play, everyone knows that you made that play. Your team feeds off of it. The crowd feeds off of it. There is a true home field advantage. I see home field advantage more in baseball during the playoffs. That's when it's packed every single night. Fans are into it. So I think it will have some effect on certain players. Now, if you are a true professional, if you just show up to ball regardless, you're going to do your thing. But the fact that there aren't fans there, it's going to change the emotions of the game because we're human beings. That's what makes us special. We cry, we laugh, we hurt, we feel all this stuff, right? We're not just lions in the jungle who just react to stuff and go off of instincts. We think about things. So it's definitely going to have an effect on certain guys. But the elite, the ballers, are going to show up and say, hey, I'm ready to eat. Let's go.
Yes. I totally agree with that, too. That's, man, you have such a way with words, Michael.
I appreciate that, man.
All right, so I'm done with my MLB questions. I just got 2 more questions for you, and then we can wrap it up. How much NHL do you pay attention to?
A little bit. I'm not gonna lie and say like I know all these names and stuff. As soon as the Kings started balling, I started paying a little more attention to it. I know what Ovechkin and Crosby. You know what I mean? You throw old school out there, I'll pay attention. But I definitely appreciate the sport for the athleticism, the speed, the angles. Like I enjoy watching it.
Okay. So I want to know what your interest in the Seattle NHL Club is, and what do you think the name's going to be?
I'm extremely interested in the Seattle Club. One, because I live in Monroe. That's about 10 miles from Everett. The Silvertips play in Everett. So every now and then I'll go and watch these young men on the ice tear it up. I love the speed.
You go for the T-Birds or you go for the Everett Silvertips and not the T-Birds, man?
Not the T-Birds, man. Hey, Silvertips. I got free tickets, so give me anything for free. I'll be a fan. Anything for free. And I'm there. But yeah, I'm excited for it because I know that this city and this region will support whatever type of sport is out there. I mean, there's a rugby team out here in Seattle who draws a lot of fans. You know, I work with Jessamine McIntyre. She just lost her dog today, so rest in peace to Benson. Jessamine, love you. But this region just supports whatever sport is out there. So I'm super excited about that. And it has to be the Kraken, right? Or the salmon. Like it has to be something to do with the sea and water or whatnot. I like Kraken because one, I like the liquor Kraken, so I'm like, it makes sense. I'd be all right with salmon, or I would be okay with the totems as well. But in today's climate, I don't even know if you can do that in today's climate. Like I don't know if that's offensive to the natives or not. I would check in with somebody with that, but I like the totems as well.
It might be easier just to steer clear of that and stick with Kraken.
Yeah. It might be. It might be.
What did you think of the name of the stadium that was formerly known as Key Arena?
What is it now? It's like environmental.
I don't want to write it because it was so ridiculous.
Oh my God! You know what? It's ridiculous, but that's so Seattle. Yeah,
something great.
Yeah.
Stadium,
but that's Seattle, right? We're gonna make sure that we're one with the earth, with everyone's aware of what's going on. That's what I can appreciate about Seattle. I'm from LA. People don't care about the environment in LA. They'll go to the beach and throw trash into the ocean. Like, so I get it. It's funny because it's not a name that sticks, right? I don't know the name. You don't know the name. I don't
know it off the top of my head.
It doesn't stick. So I think they could have gone with something that's a little more catchy, but that's not what the Northwest does. You know, they they make you think about stuff, and they're definitely making us think about that. Still don't know the name of the stadium, but I know that once it's built and teams are there, I will be there.
Awesome. So I know you said multiple times that I'm from LA or I'm from California, so I wanted to get your opinion on this.
Okay. Oh, now let me give you some history behind this. Okay. I have 3 kids.
Hold on 1 second. It's called Climate Pledge Arena.
Climate Pledge Arena. Boom.
Okay.
I'll forget that in 10 minutes. Don't worry about it. But the question is Giannis or LeBron for MVP. All right, so here's my story behind this. I got 3 kids. My middle child, his name is Kobe. after that man right there, Kobe Bryant, my favorite athlete of all time. Now, growing up in California, Kobe's was in the league in 96, 97. LeBron gets in the league 03, 04. And they're constantly comparing LeBron and Kobe. Who's better? Who's that? And I'm like, look, man, don't compare nobody to Kobe. Kobe's the next best thing next to Jordan. So I've had like this kind of love-hate relationship with LeBron. Like, I appreciate who he is as a person, as a father. I understand his greatness on the court, but I'm like, I'll still take Kobe every day of the week just because his mental, his skill. LeBron is super athletic. His IQ is great. And they're just different. So it's been so tough. It was tough for me to root for LeBron. When he went to Miami, I'm like, how's he going to do that to his hometown? Like, what's going on? He made a big spectacle of this thing. So it made it tough for me to embrace LeBron. So then he signs with my team. And I'm like, you kidding me right now? Like, I'm not going to hate on the guy, but he's wearing my jersey, so I have to support this dude. The more I see LeBron, because now I'm forced to see him because I am a Laker fan and I tap in with the Lakers constantly and I see what's going on, the more I get to understand and appreciate him. And now that Kobe's gone, rest in peace, it's kind of allowed me to kind of really embrace him. Once I saw Kobe embrace him on the sideline in a Laker uniform, I'm like, all right, Kobe, we good? Okay, we good. We can like this guy now. And then I look at Giannis, and there's nothing like Giannis out there. I mean, Giannis is the future of the big man. Now, You think of big man, the big man today is what Lamar Odom was for the Lakers years ago, right? He could bring the ball up, he can shoot, he can do all this thing. Now that's like standard for big men. And you see Giannis and you see his development. Like, he's shooting threes this year. He's bringing the ball up the court. He's playing a lot of minutes. So I appreciate his game as well. But I'm going to go with LeBron. And granted, LeBron, I still put Kobe in front of LeBron. I go Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, and Jabbar. That's my top four.
Okay.
But I'm going to go with LeBron simply because he has had the most pressure on him to perform at a high level this year. Giannis has some pressure on him, but you're tucked away in Milwaukee. You're playing in the Eastern Conference. People are like, okay, if he does well, cool. If not, it's all good. Well, LeBron is like, oh, he better ball out. He better do this. He better do that. So I'm going to go with LeBron James, but I'm not mad if Giannis gets it. I understand if Giannis gets it.
Okay. All right. I respect that answer. It drives me crazy, and you brought it up. It drives me crazy when people like to try and bring up the comparisons of LeBron and Jordan and Kobe.
Yeah.
And people are always like, oh, yeah, LeBron James or Michael Jordan. And it's like, when did he pass Kobe?
Yeah.
When did he pass Kobe? I saw something on social media a while ago when he signed with the Lakers where it was like best Lakers players of all time. And he was already on this photo. And I was like, why are you doing that? He hasn't even touched the ball in a Lakers uniform.
Do they won a championship yet for us? Kobe got 5. I'll give you my Lakers. I'll go Elgin Baylor. You got to go Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Magic Johnson, and then Jerry West, the logo. Now, Jerry West lost like 7, 8 championships, but it was to the Boston Celtics in the 60s. He's got 1, but LeBron got to get 1 first. And then when he retires, who are you going to remember him as a Laker, as a Heat, or a Cavalier? Like,
you can't. He's bounced around so much.
Yeah,
that's my issue with him.
Yeah.
I only pay attention to the NBA when it's like this time of the season.
Yeah.
When it's like towards the tail end. Because I got Sonic's tattoo. Like,
Yep.
So I don't really pay attention to the NBA as much as normal NBA fans, obviously. But towards this part of the season, I like to keep in and check in on what's going on.
Yes,
But when do you think that Seattle is going to get a basketball team?
Close. I think they can grab the Timberwolves. Timberwolves are for sale. KG has shown some interest. We'll see if he were to get the team and would he move them or not. But it's going to take something like a franchise being available. I see this happening within the next 5 years. This is such a basketball state. So many balls are produced here. I mentioned earlier today on 710, it's the weather. You're forced to go inside to do things. So that's why you're going to produce a lot of good basketball players. This region needs it. When I was with the Hawks in 08, 09, the Sonics left, so I didn't even get a chance to really enjoy it. You know, I would have had the money. I would have tricked out so much money on Sonics games back. It's almost a blessing that they left, because I would have spent a lot of money on Sonics games back in the day. But
I miss caring about the NBA.
Man. Yeah, it's rough. So I think it's going to happen within the next 5 or 6 years, though.
Awesome. So if I can get you to just hang for just a minute, I'm going to close up the show. Michael Bumpus, everybody, I really appreciate you giving me the time. Make sure you go check out all of his social media. I have it ticking on the bottom. Not yet. Here we go. Anything that you would like to plug?
And just check out Bump City. The podcast is available on Spotify, on SoundCloud, on Apple Podcasts. It's just allowing myself to speak what I want to speak about. I have great guests on every week. I do an interview every week. And just appreciate the love, man. I appreciate you reaching out and asking me to be on this thing. And if you ever need anything from me, hey, holla at me and I'll do the same. We got a connection now. Let's just keep this thing rolling and tune in to Talk Interference Sports, man. It's a good deal my guy has set up, man. Let's keep this thing rolling. I
like it. Thank you. Thanks everybody for being a part of this. Again, Michael Bumpus. I'll catch you guys next time when I got a second. I don't got anything lined up just yet, but when I do, I'll let you guys know. Thanks for catching it. Catch you guys later.